Hello and welcome to another edition of Chill with Kaiju Kim. I'm Kaiju Kim. Hope you're all doing well on this lovely Sunday afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing after the stream. I have lots of wholesome and delightfully stupid kaiju content ready for you. There's a little something here for everybody. All right, so tonight I will be discussing the Monsterverse with a very special guest. He is a very well-known YouTuber here in the kaiju community. He is the author of 3 novels, the first of which being Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1. And he's just an all-around fantastic guy. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Ryan George Collins, aka the Omni Viewer.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going? How's your day going?
My day's been going well so far. Very nice weather recently. Bit of time getting footage out in the garden for the next Garden of Omni video.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So for the one person in the audience who does not know who you are, why don't you give us a little introduction?
I'm flattered that you think there's only one person who wouldn't know me. Well, as she said, I'm the Omni Viewer. I've been doing videos on YouTube for a couple years now, since basically the very, very end of 2013. I've been writing for a lot longer than that, but I didn't actually get anything published until a few years ago. And as she said, my first book is Operation Red Dragon. The other books are Occult Mafia and Emerald of Maddox City, 4th one on the way. And I basically go on my channel to do anything, but a large chunk of my content is Godzilla and Kaiju related, because that's what I'm a really big fan of. But you'll also find stuff like other genres of sci-fi and horror, or sometimes musicals. There's original stuff on there, like an audio drama called The New Aberdeen Tapes. All sorts of things, hence Omni. So...
Nice. All right, we got quite a few people in the chat tonight. Let's say hello to Mark, and we got Blawbox Straws, Space Tree 2D Studios, Matt, how's it going? What's going on? Gaposaurus, hello, hello.
All familiar faces.
All right, so awesome. All right, so let's get going. We're going to start off with our overall opinions on the Monsterverse. I actually took to the Facebook to get some ideas as to what the general consensus on the Monsterverse is. If I can get this to load, 1 second. There we go. So first off, we have Leslie P. Chambers says, if I can sum up the Monsterverse in a few words, I would say that these films are so fun and entertaining, and the fact that they were made by people that honored the past films, the lore, and the mythology, and most importantly, the fans. I absolutely love the Monsterverse for doing just that, and then some. Yeah, I agree. Let's see what else we got. Comment from Nathaniel, aka Zimzilla. Hope he drops in tonight. It's definitely been a ride going from the rumors in 2012 to now seeing the 4 films. Overall, none of the films do anything overly amazing, but they have done the job of reintroducing Godzilla to a wide, modern audience. Yeah, I think they did a good job, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. All right, Damien says, the Monsterverse began with the visual promise to return Godzilla to his darker roots, then made a swerve, giving us something more like a big-budget version of the 70s Showa era. Yeah, I can see that. I'm honestly happy either way. Should it continue? That would have been nice, but if Godzilla were to fall into another slumber until the next great revival, I would be okay with that as well. Yeah, so would I, honestly. Again, we'll get to that in a minute. And Adrian says, love how entertaining the Monsterverse is. It doesn't have the same weight as the other Godzilla movies, no, but as a fan, having the Monsterverse brings back that inner childhood feeling you had being a Godzilla fan growing up, and it's a great avenue to bring many new fans to this wonderful fandom. Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the Monsterverse began exactly 7 years ago today. Actually, when I scheduled this stream, it didn't even register in my brain that today was the anniversary of G14. Yeah. So we got 4 movies so far, and a Skull Island anime in the works. So let's start this discussion, Mr. Omni Viewer. What are your overall thoughts on the Monsterverse?
Overall, I mean, I was nervous when I first heard about them, just about the first movie, because, you know, last time we got an American Godzilla, didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
But pretty much ever since Godzilla 2014 came out, I have consistently enjoyed pretty much every Monsterverse movie. Even though I've always been a little bit worried about how the next one will turn out, because, you know, Godzilla and Kong and all these things mean so much to me, I've always found myself still enjoying it by the end, warts and all. Like, even with Kong Skull Island, when that was first announced, before it was even stated to be part of the Monsterverse, the part of me thought, do we really need another King Kong movie? I mean, Peter Jackson pretty much covered it. You can't top that in terms of remakes. And then they announced it's actually going to be setting up a crossover with Godzilla, and that's when I thought, oh, well, okay, if anything could justify bringing Kong back again, it would be that. And this version has proven to just be as strong of a good representation of King Kong as this Godzilla has been of Godzilla. Different, very distinct from the originals, but still very respectful of what we have come to expect, basically. And pretty much the whole way through, I've found there's far more to like about these movies than there is to dislike, personally at least. How about you?
Yeah, so for me, generally speaking, I'm really glad that the Monsterverse exists, and I would like to see it continue, but I also don't want it to overstay its welcome, you know? Like, I wouldn't mind if we maybe got like a break from it for a couple of years and then it starts up again, like 2 or 3 more films maybe pop out after that, and then that's it. I would be happy with that as long as they do it right. Like, don't kill off random characters for no good reason. Don't shove any sob stories down our throats. Just let us naturally care about the characters. Make sure Godzilla is still awesome. Team Godzilla. But yeah, overall, I have very much been enjoying the Monsterverse, although I didn't think I would after watching the first Monsterverse film, Godzilla 2014. Now, this is a little bit of a hot take, but I did not enjoy that film. I'm sorry. It just
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, I know. How do you feel about that film? I think you'd enjoyed it, right?
Oh yeah. But like I said, I was really nervous about it at first, and it's actually kind of weird. My journey with Godzilla 2014 was sort of the inverse of what it seemed like everyone else's was. The first trailer came out and everyone was going, this is amazing. This is going to return Godzilla to the way he's supposed to be. This is going to be the greatest film ever. I looked at it and I thought, you know, guys, this to me looks like it's going to have very little Godzilla in it, and that could be disappointing. Then the movie comes out, there's very little Godzilla in it, but here I come and I say, hey, they actually made it work, and everyone else is going, darn it, why didn't they have more Godzilla? And I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just find it weird that everything one did a 180 around me, or maybe I did a 180 around everyone, or we did it around each other, whichever it was. I wound up enjoying 2014 far more than I was initially thinking I would. And but even when I made my list of things that need to happen in Godzilla 2 thing, I said that I got the whole minimalism thing of holding back on the monsters, but that could only work for the first movie. Dip your toe in the water. Next time, you've got no choice but to swim to the deep end. Or at least further to the deep end. So, yeah, that was where I stood.
Yeah, but so here's my problem. Here's my problem with it. Please don't dislike my video. I'm getting to it. So for me, when it comes to Godzilla, I like crazy, over the top, delightfully silly films, you know? So this film was a lot more grounded, which I appreciate what they were going for, and I can see why you and other people love it, but it just didn't work for me. Like, I feel like I might have enjoyed it more if they didn't kill off Bryan Cranston's character. Like, I would have liked to see more of his story, and instead of having Aaron Taylor Johnson's character like completely take over, like he could have still been in it, but I feel like Bryan Cranston's character should have been more of the protagonist.
A lot of people say that.
Yeah.
I actually remember at one point asking, just generally asking my audience, would they have still felt that way if the character had not been played by Bryan Cranston? Because I wanted to know, is it because it's Bryan Cranston, and Bryan Cranston's a great actor, but is it because it was him and he wasn't in the movie all that much, or is it really because the character passed before it was ready? And I think I got a pretty good mix of answers, which said it wasn't really one answer or the other. A lot of people had their own takes on it. My own take is that if you look at the script, his passing basically is what spurs Ford, because he doesn't want to end up where his father ended up. Though I can also see how you could have done some interesting stuff had he stuck around. So, I don't know. It's one of those catch-22 things, I suppose, where killing him means you lose one of the best actors in the movie. Not that I think anyone was especially bad in it, but he was definitely one of the upper tier. But at the same time, keeping him around means you kind of got to rethink the whole arc of the actual main character's story. So,
Yeah. We got a comment from Space Tree Studios. From my experience, the movie plays better on your first viewing or with a crowd. Yeah. I mean, on my first viewing, I was just like, but yeah, I feel like maybe it would have been better with the crowd because I saw it with my family like 2 weeks after it came out. So, but yeah, okay. I will say something nice about it. I'll say nice things about it now. So while we don't get a whole lot of monster action in that movie, when the monsters are on screen, it is done very well. I will say that. And also, that first build up to the first atomic breath is
definitely one of the best scenes.
That's my favorite scene, and also the kiss of death. Of course, everyone loves that.
Yeah, I think it's particularly with the monster stuff. 2014 definitely took what had been done in Pacific Rim, which basically redefined what you could do with the genre, and took it the next step, applying it to an actual classic character. So,
yeah.
So yeah, having him do stuff like the kiss of death, which we'd never seen him do with his atomic breath before. We'd seen him get in a monster's face with it. We've seen him do the nuclear pulse and everything. We've never actually seen him give radioactive mouth to mouth. So.
Yeah, that was a very nice touch. And speaking of Godzilla, a lot of people complain that he's only in the movie for like 8 minutes. But you know what? I mean, while I do admit I would have enjoyed maybe seeing him for a couple more minutes, but at the same time, this isn't really a new thing for Godzilla, right? I mean, you got films like Godzilla versus Megalon where he's only in the movie for 15 minutes. Like, I watched that movie like a few weeks ago. I literally timed it, how long Godzilla is on screen or at least present in the scene. 15 minutes, 44 seconds, I think it was. And I love that movie. So it's like...
Godzilla also isn't in Shin Godzilla all that much. You'll see plenty of people praising that film. I won't be one of them, but you'll see other people doing it.
Yeah. I wouldn't be one of those people either.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that.
Yeah. That's another stream for another day.
What it is the stream of remains to be seen.
All right, so let's move on to the second film of the Monsterverse, Kong Skull Island. How did you feel about that film?
Well, like I said, very first announcement, I was thinking, what's the point? As soon as it was announced as part of the Monsterverse, I was intrigued. And the first trailer dropped, and I was like, yeah, that's a good trailer. And it's good because finally it was something different for King Kong. Because the thing about King Kong's movies is that the original is considered such a pinnacle of cinema that I think there's almost this sort of fear in Hollywood almost about doing something different from it. So you got to stick to that formula when you remake it. And as a result, you have the 70s movie, which surprisingly, Skull Island draws a lot of elements from, which I guess maybe demonstrates that movie wasn't necessarily bad in concept, just bad in execution. But if you think it's bad, of course. But yeah, it did a really good job of sort of showing the potential, the untapped potential of King Kong. You don't have to always have it be where he's found by these people who wind up on the island and taken to New York where he's shot down. You can have a story where he is you can have a story where he's the unquestioned hero. You can have a story where he lives at the end. And there have been a few Kong things that did that. Like there was like a King Kong Escapes didn't kill him at the end, but at the same time it was he's on an island, they take him off the island, he's in the city. Or that ridiculous animated series from like the late 90s, early 2000s that Kong King of Atlantis, the animated movie, spun off from.
I never had the pleasure of watching that.
Oh, it's insane. Basically, it's King Kong is blue for starters, and I think he's just supposed to be gray, but because it's a cartoon and they want bright colors, he's blue. And there's this guy on Skull Island. There's like a little human crew that hangs out with him. There's the sidekick, there's a native shaman woman, and the main guy has this weird headset that allows him to mentally meld with King Kong, which basically means he turns into energy and enters King Kong's mind, so they become superpowered. And they go around fighting monsters all over the world, and the Atlantis movie is even stranger than that. So, yeah.
Okay.
There's a reason you haven't heard of it, or there's a reason it's not necessarily higher up. But it was kind of obscure even when it was airing. But yeah, Skull Island basically told the entire world, this is how you can bring Kong forward, and this is how you can do it without going into Cloud Cuckoo Land. Even with the Hollow Earth and the plant, animal, flora, fauna things, it still had that element of, this is how you do it right. Plus, as Vietnam War metaphors go, it's one of the better ones, I think. Maybe not quite enemy mine level, but good.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Kong Skull Island. That's like the first Kong film that doesn't have like any connection to the original 33 film, right? If I'm not mistaken.
There's like the Easter egg that the Wanderer is the temple where the story is, and the Wanderer is actually the name of the ship they take in the book as opposed to the Venture. So, and they say this showed up 10 years before Marlowe did, which would put it right in the 30s. But that's more of an Easter egg than anything else.
Yeah, Easter eggs aside, this is like not connected to the 33 film at all.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but I like, sorry if you can hear cars, trucks, and motorcycles in the background, by the way. I live right next to a highway and I can't afford to move. All right, so yeah, I like Kong Skull Island too. I enjoyed it. It's like a new concept for Kong. He's not fully grown. He's in his element for the entire film, like we said. There's nothing tragic about him, like, you know, and you find yourself rooting for him for the entire film. How do you feel about the characters? I mean, they might be a little cliche, but that's not necessarily a bad thing in my opinion, at least not for this film. What do you think?
Well, the human characters, like I said, Vietnam War metaphor, you're going to have those stock characters in there. But then again, we haven't quite seen a giant monster movie, at least not in a very long time, which did something like that. So sometimes, even when sometimes it's not how original something is, it's what you do with it. So if you take those stock characters and you put them in a regular Vietnam movie, like say you want to do some sort of Rambo prequel or something, then they'd be completely forgettable. On Skull Island, they're more memorable. That's kind of because of what's around them, but it allows them to react to what's around them, and how they react affects how they interact. And as a result, you get characters who maybe aren't necessarily deep, but they're still good. They're still memorable. And I mean, you can't beat the casting, certainly. It's quite a cast.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson,
Brie Larson. Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, Tom
right?
Hiddleston, John Goodman, a whole bunch of people, many of whom have also been in Marvel movies. So it's sort of like, hey, I recognize that one guy from the Agent Carter series. So yeah, it's kind of surreal when you have that much crossover at once. But then again, so many Marvel movies, that's kind of hard to avoid these days. So, but yeah, I thought it was John C. Reilly, another good addition.
Yes, that was a good one too.
Maybe they could have had a little more consistency with his craziness, but still good. Still like him.
Yeah, good stuff. And how about that monster action, though? Good stuff, right?
Oh yeah. The whole deal with the skull crawlers coming at you, or even just the more subtle things like that giant ox that rises out of the water. It doesn't necessarily have an action scene, but it's very memorable. And I actually think that's what really helps you realize this isn't the same Skull Island as before. This time, not everything is out to kill you. And you could even say maybe nothing is deliberately out to kill you in this version, because a lot of the things that happen is because they get attacked first by the soldiers, which plays into the metaphor again. But there are videos out there that have said far more on that than I'm prepared to say here.
Yeah.
But it also led to a satisfying fight. It did kind of start the whole day fights versus night fights argument, but we can get into that later.
Yeah. Oh, just want to say real quick, hello to David Brown. Yes, you're late. How dare you? Thank you for coming, David. All right, so back to the monster action in Kong Skull Island. I love it very much. You can like see the wheels turn in Kong's head as he's like trying to get out of a situation, and that's what I like about Kong. He's very resourceful. He uses the environment around him to his advantage. In fact, I think in every Kong film, he pulls out a tree from its roots at least once.
Yep.
Am I wrong?
I'm pretty sure that's... Did it happen?
That's like a trademark.
Trying to remember. I know he messes with the log bridge, but he didn't pull that up.
All right, so in almost every Kong film. Almost every Kong film, but that's like a trademark for him. It's like pulling a tree out of the ground and shoving it somewhere.
But also stuff like the way he figures out how to use that propeller on the end of the chain.
Yeah.
Not propeller, rotor, because it's a ship. That whole flying guillotine move he does with it, right out of a kung fu movie. You gotta love stuff like that.
Cool. I gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right. Gojillion says, it's one of my favorite designs of Kong. I agree.
And it kind of harkens back to the original, too. Like, they say that there was debate between Willis O'Brien and Marion C. Cooper about how humanoid Kong should be. Like, who was it? I think O'Brien wanted something that was more upright, ogre-ish, and Cooper wanted something more gorilloid. They eventually settled on something in the middle, skewing more towards what Cooper wanted because he's in charge. Here, I mean, he's basically a giant Sasquatch. So
Yeah, pretty much.
And it
All
works.
right. Yeah, David Brown says, I hope we see them in a possible Son of Kong. I think he's talking about the skull crawlers. Yes. Son of Kong. Would you like to see a Son of Kong remake?
It would be difficult to pull off. I've actually seen like a lot of people talking about it as though it's a certainty. But I think what's interesting is that no one's considering as yet, I don't think, that a Son of Kong sequel set in the Monsterverse might not actually have the original Kong in it. Because they've done a pretty thorough job of explaining that this Kong is the last one. I mean, they removed any definite references to it in GVK, but I think if I were to do Son of Kong, I would probably open it by saying the original Kong met his fate, and maybe the Son of Kong is a clone. And like the way you could do that is, because of how cloning works, you gotta have something to carry it. You need to mix the genes with something. So the closest thing you'd have to Kong would be some sort of existing primate, real world primate, that is. So the result would be something that's Kong, but not purely Kong, something new. And that makes it a little bit difficult for him to learn the ropes. We can see that new struggle of, this is a Kong who's maybe not the top dog because he hasn't quite gotten there yet. So, and what changes might come with not being a purebred version of his species? Who knows?
Yeah,
or
all
what
hell
it
could break
is.
loose. All hell could break loose. Migbar wants to know, where does Mighty Joe Young stand?
On top of a burning building.
Yep.
Or a Ferris wheel if it's the remake.
Yeah, I'm going with the remake. I like that one better.
Been a while since I've seen the remake. Really should.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I saw Out from the Depths did a review of it recently. I'm like, I need to rewatch this. It's a good movie. One of my childhood movies. All right. Let's move on to the next film in the Monsterverse, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. This one is my favorite. I don't know about you. I love this movie so much.
It's definitely up there in terms of Monsterverse. I've never really thought about ranking them. So I don't know if it's my favorite or not, because I don't know. I do really, really like it, though. I guess I'm more anxious to rewatch it than the others. So perhaps it's my favorite. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it a few times in the theater, so it's definitely my favorite. I know it has its flaws, and I know pretty much everyone else hates it, but I love it to pieces. In my opinion, it's like the perfect American-made Godzilla film. Like, I walked out of that theater yelling, yes, they finally did Godzilla right! I was so freaking happy. It has a lot of callbacks to the original franchise. We see Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra on the big screen for the first time, and monster action, fantastic. The film score, mwah, mwah, beautiful.
Oh yeah, definitely that score is my favorite. It's the most memorable, certainly.
Got the classic theme in there, which is one of the reasons I think is why I love it so much. And this kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier about how I like my Godzilla films to be like crazy and over the top, and that's exactly what this film is. So for me, G14 almost didn't feel like a Godzilla movie at times, but this felt like a Godzilla movie. I loved every second of it.
Well,
and go ahead.
They called it Kaiju opera behind the scenes, didn't they? That's what they were going for.
Yeah.
Something grandiose, operatic. Hence the chanting and the soundtrack and the large vastness of everything we see.
Yeah.
So.
We got Machine Dragon Nero, who has not seen King of the Monsters. How dare you? Get out. No, I'm joking. We might get into a couple of spoilers here, so if you want to duck out for a few minutes and come back. Let's see. Gojillian says Barry McCreary is now one of my favorite composers, thanks to King of the Monsters. Yes, Barry McCreary did a fantastic job on that.
I've heard some of his other stuff since. I think he's good. Like even with that HBO Black Sails, I tried watching it, didn't really like it, couldn't get through the first episode, but his opening theme for it was really good.
All right, Blawbox Draw says, I love King of the Monsters, but gosh dang, Rodan and Mothra feel like they're just in the background. Yeah, they kind of do, don't they?
Mothra more so than Rodan, maybe. Because Rodan gets one of the best set pieces in the whole movie.
Oh, yeah, he does. All right, what else do we want to say about this film? But yeah, so again, I know it has flaws. Like, they definitely could have handled the oxygen destroyer thing a lot better. Like when I first saw it in the theater, it didn't quite register in my brain that it didn't make sense. I was just like, oh, that's the thing that killed the first Godzilla. But then it's just like watching it again, I'm like, yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like it went from being like this big important weapon that had so much weight in the first film to being a plot device. It
definitely serves the purpose of escalating the scene, because that whole sequence is about escalation. So that's the best I can do to justify its presence. Like throughout that whole time, from the moment they wake up Rodan, it's like, how can we make this worse? This happens. Okay, what could make that worse? This happens. But what could make it worse than that? And they just keep piling until they can't possibly have anything worse happen other than the oxygen destroyer landing and possibly killing Godzilla, but not killing Ghidorah. That being said, it definitely did need more build-up. I wish I could say I know how, because even having read the novelization, they didn't really build it up there either. So
yeah, I feel like if they had like introduced like the fact that they were working on it like way at the beginning of the film, then it would have like had a little more like weight to it, but it didn't work in this film.
There's a little hint that even I missed at first, where they say that they're the mass die-offs of fish in that news report that Emma Russell's.
Oh, yeah.
But that goes by so quickly, and you don't necessarily make that connection right off the bat. So it could have been handled better. But otherwise, I mean, I think it serves the purpose well enough, but definitely could have been better. That's the takeaway from me.
Yeah. Machine Dragon Nero asks, what are your thoughts on the characterization of the monsters?
In King of the Monsters, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm assuming. Yeah.
Do you want to go first or me?
You can go ahead. I need to think about this one.
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the monsters are the main characters in King of the Monsters, and the humans are the supporting cast. That's pretty much what I've said from the beginning, because they just exude personality in this. They got personality in 2014 and Kong Skull Island, absolutely. But it just feels like there's more attention put on them in King of the Monsters, because like they're given more chances to be expressive. And I think you remember all of them. However you feel about the movie as a whole, you can't deny that they definitely nailed the personalities. Especially like even doing stuff that, again, we hadn't necessarily seen done before, like giving each of Ghidorah's heads a personality. That was like originally pretty much every version of Ghidorah's head. Pretty much every version of Ghidorah is either all the heads are acting as one, or they're all just flailing tentacles waving around, not really looking where they're going. And to have them be sort of like you have a middle head that's trying to get the other two focused because one of them is way too angry and the other's kind of clueless. I mean, that went a long way towards making this Ghidorah feel distinct. And then you have Rodan, who's like all sorts of cocky, I would almost say. Like when he's right before he takes out all the jets, he gets this look in his eyes like, they're not going to see this coming. Zoop! And takes them all out. And then, of course, there a few seconds later, he gets freaked out when he gets too close to Ghidorah, right when he's about to grab the Argo. Just look on his face like, what the? I'm out!
Yep.
Yeah. And Mothra, of course, I mean, her introductory scene as a larva goes a long way towards redefining what the monsters will be like, because you have 2014 in Skull Island where the monsters interact with the humans to a certain extent, but they're not necessarily personable. Mothra makes it a little more personable. And of course, she makes the sacrificial move at the end.
As always.
Maybe that's another thing that could have been handled a little better if Mothra had been in it just a little bit more, so we could really form an even stronger connection with her. But then again, there are plenty of people I've seen come away from the movie thinking, I didn't like Mothra before this, and now I do. So who knows? And then, of course, you have Godzilla. Definitely expanding on what they had set up before as this powerhouse, but exploring the idea that there's more to him than just an impartial force that's concerned solely with restoring balance. That whole idea that he's got a deeper connection to mankind, that scene with Serizawa in the temple, I mean, that is an amazing scene right there. You ever read the translation of the lyrics to that song that's playing under the whole thing? It is, you got to look up a translation. That's why I still buy physical media, because the booklet that come with the CD, it has the translation. And it's amazing what they put in. It's like they wrote it, they translated it into Sumerian, which is why you can't understand it. But yeah, you need to look it up at some point.
Will do. Julian says they made Ghidorah pretty terrifying, especially in the first trailer. Yeah, I like what they did with Ghidorah in this. He's kind of like almost kind of like serpent-like, more like a dragon lizard guy dude.
Yeah,
he was cool.
The trailers, I mean,
yeah,
those were amazing.
Those were good trailers. Okay, to be fair, that Mothra hatching scene with the Mothra theme just gave me chills. Such a small part of the actual movie, yet still my favorite. I love it. Yeah, that was a good scene.
Oh yeah,
that was a good movie overall. I love that movie so much.
Yeah, amazing imagery. Like, but then again, there's also the debates that come about. Like the common critiques I see is that the monsters are moving too fast and there's too much weather effects. And I don't know, as far as the monsters moving too fast, I actually don't know if it's that inconsistent with 2014. Because that's when I did a video all about how realism as it applies to the Monsterverse doesn't actually mean anything, because the rule has always been what looks good on camera. But then in response to that, I saw the word consistency coming up. Well, King of the Monsters is consistent with Skull Island because they're moving faster there. And Mothra and Rodan are both in that same size range as Kong and the Giant Skullcrawler. So, I mean, that particular lack of consistency wouldn't apply to them. But in terms of consistency with 2014, let's not forget Godzilla and the Mutos can apparently teleport in that movie. At the end, the female Muto is looming over the ship with Ford on it. And then suddenly Godzilla's there and he's already bit down on her shoulder. We didn't hear him get there. The water didn't rock the boat or anything. He just blip there. So
how convenient.
He must have been booking.
Let's see what else we got here in the chat. Machine Dragon Nero. I still feel like we just don't know all that much about Godzilla. He's like an enigma. Why does he care, and why does he make it his job to fight for us? Because Godzilla is inside each one of us.
Classic quote. But he is supposed to have that bit of enigmaticness to him. Oh, what was that one?
Yeah. It's weird how the whole realism debate sparked about a franchise that wasn't all that realistic to begin with. Thank you. This is exactly where I stand on this. Like, we'll get to Godzilla versus Kong in a minute, but I've heard people complain about like the boat physics in Godzilla versus Kong, and it's just like, why do you care? It's giant lizard versus giant ape. What? I already said where I stand about Godzilla movies. I like crazy, over the top, delightfully silly. And I like that video you did, where you brought in your dad to talk about that scene from Kong Skull Island and how unrealistic the helicopter scene where they first go into the island.
Something which has nothing to do with the monsters. I was very specific in choosing that, because if that's not realistic and it still makes for a scene that people like, I just don't know why anyone is making a big deal over the stuff with the giant fantasy elements in it.
Exactly.
That's just me, though. I don't mean anything personal by it, of course. But
well, yeah, of course, that's just our opinion. But of course, we're smarter than everybody, because our opinion is fantastic and right and correct all the time, always. All right, let's see. Fun fact: Godzilla King of the Monsters has more cutaways than 2014. It did not feel that way to me.
Yeah, I think the way it doesn't, the reason it doesn't feel that way is because it doesn't cut away well, actually, no. I was going to say because it doesn't cut away during the big moments, but that's not quite true. I think the reason that it doesn't feel like... Okay, starting over. Cut. Boy, am I glad this isn't live, or else I'd look really silly right now. I think the reason it doesn't feel like there's more cutaways in King of the Monsters is because there's arguably more to cut away from and more that's on the screen.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, because like we said, not much monster moments in 2014. Not that those moments are not well handled, but a large chunk of it is about the humans and what they're doing. And it cuts away as the fight is beginning a lot of the times. For a reason, because Edward said he didn't want to blow it all at first. He wanted something to build to. He might have overdone it a little. But King of the Monsters has more of the monsters present in the film. So that would be my explanation.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. By the way, he likes your poster, your Jurassic Park poster.
Oh, yeah. That's a vintage one from way, way back when the movie first came out. I actually just recently unearthed that a year or two ago and thought, it's still in good condition. I'm going to frame it and put it up. Nice. You can't quite see the whole thing. The Dilophosaurus is obscured by my cabinet.
Man, I was 2 when that movie came out. Let's see. David Brown says, King of the Monsters does not cut to the aftermath like 2014. Yeah, that is another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, shall we move on to the final film of the Monsterverse? As of now, at least.
Sure.
Godzilla versus Kong. I enjoyed this one. You enjoyed this one? I enjoyed this one.
Yeah. Yeah, this was... I think it was worth the wait, certainly. I mean, as much as that wait kept getting stretched out. And hey, it's the movie that appears to be saving movie theaters. So extra bonus. We get bragging rights. Take that, Marvel. But like, I mean, obviously I'm a fan. I mean, look behind me. That's just a sampling of what I've got.
Yeah, same here. Look at my stuff.
Oh yeah. But yeah, this. I mean, you said you like kaiju movies that go all out. This movie definitely went all out.
And that's what I love about it.
Yeah. I would say, actually, at this point, if you're looking for consistency on realism, Godzilla 2014 is the odd one out.
Yeah.
And Kong Skull Island has basically brought us... But the thing is, it's brought us to a point where it's more fantastical, but it doesn't feel like it's... like it's a cheap way of doing it, I guess. It's not like you go from Tim Burton's Batman to Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin, where there's an overall degrading, not just in realism, but also in overall quality. Because Godzilla vs. Kong is still pretty high quality. Again, flaws. Why was Ren Sarazawa a Sarazawa? But still, I have more good to say about it than bad, usually.
Yeah, same here. I really enjoyed like following Kong on his journey and getting to know him more, because this is only our second film with this particular Kong, so of course he's got to get more screen time. And the score, again, fantastic. I love the score for this film and all of the Monsterverse, really. And I also like how they made Godzilla like more like animalistic, like how at the very beginning of round 3, where he's like crawling like a crocodile looking for Kong, and then later he's like snapping at his feet. Like we never seen Godzilla do anything like that before, and we've also never seen Godzilla smirk. That was hilarious. I was like, did he just smirk?
I'm glad they managed to get that past the Toho execs who didn't want him to emote at all.
I'm glad they made that work.
Yeah. I guess they probably just justified it like, no, it's a camera angle. It only looks like he's smiling. They're like, oh, okay.
No, it's the lighting. Oh, you're looking at it wrong.
But yeah, like, again, this is one... Oh, we got a comment.
Hot take. Godzilla vs. Kong was epic, but the Mechagodzilla just feels forced, and it could have been better. 6 or 7 out of 10.
I don't fully agree. I mean, Mechagodzilla was being built up from the beginning. So it's not, I mean, even speaking as someone who likes Batman versus Superman, it's not like Doomsday is the surprise at the end sort of thing, even though superficially that's kind of what's going on. Mechagodzilla was definitely there from the beginning, and he's even sort of the impetus, you could say, of the plot, because it's the fact that he's being built at all that Godzilla starts attacking a city seemingly unprovoked to the rest of the world, which is what prompts Apex to start manipulating things so that Kong can get off of Skull Island and lead an expedition into the Hollow Earth to find the energy to activate Mechagodzilla. So it comes full circle. So that's just my feeling.
Yeah, I do like how they handled Mechagodzilla. I like the throwback to Kaiju with, him like coming to life and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, no, that was a nice touch. I like that. I like the design. It's better than the Heisei design. Motorcycle. Highway. Sorry. What was I saying? Mechagodzilla's design.
Better than Heisei, you said.
Yeah, better than Heisei. Although I like Heisei, but
I actually think he's kind of an amalgamation of the previous 3 Mechagodzillas, because we will never count the Polygon one.
That does not count as Mechagodzilla.
Yeah. That's just an amalgamation of balls. It's not him. But he's kind of like a combination of all 3, because, he's an out-and-out villain like the original, and he's got that more industrial look. He's made by humans and made from the remains of King Ghidorah, like the Heisei version. Only it was Mecha Ghidorah in the Heisei version, but details. And he's got the biomechanical coming to life aspect like Kiryu. Put them all together, you got the legendary one.
Yep. Good stuff.
With maybe a little hint of design from the Ready Player One version.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mechagodzilla was the whole reason they got Kong off the island, and this caused Godzilla to go after them both. Yeah, like what you were saying earlier. Xandurka. The big lizard in the Hollow Earth reminded me of those big lizards from the 1950s Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah, those were meant to be Dimetrodons, I believe, because they had the sails glued to their backs. I believe the that they recently confirmed those are a reference to the Peter Jackson version, because the name Photodon,
Yeah.
that's a creature from one of there. When I first saw it, I thought that looks like a baby Godzilla. I wonder, but that's since been debunked. So
Yeah. Titanus Doug. We all love Doug. Doug's a good boy. The reason why I just feel he's forced is because he really just doesn't feel important. I think he should have saved it for its own movie. Well, that's fair.
I guess so.
I guess. Gaposaurus says, my biggest disappointment with GVK was that all the other Titans were defeated off screen before the movie started.
Well, that doesn't mean they're gone.
That's true.
If you read the prequels, most of them are just chilling wherever they feel like they will be safe.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read the Godzilla Dominion, I think it's called. But I've heard like pretty much what happens is Godzilla yells at them to go back to sleep or something along those lines.
Kind of. He's basically journeying around the world, making sure all the Titans don't overstep their boundaries. Like he stopped. I won't go into spoilers, but like he stops a few from attacking. He stops a couple from fighting each other, things like that. And I actually think that's good evidence that the completely monster-centric movie that Adam Wingard said he'd like to see happen at one point could actually work. Because it is completely from the monster's perspective. So I think that's good evidence that they could make it happen. But yeah, all Godzilla really does is he puts the monsters in their place. He doesn't kill any of them. So there's always potential for them to come back. Well, there are a couple he kills, but they're not really big Titans. They're more like species like the Mutos were. But that's as far.
All right. So let's talk really quickly about the characters. I do feel like they could have combined some of the characters. Like, I don't know if we really need both Eileen and Nathan. We could have just had Eileen, the woman who was like in charge of Kong. Same thing with the comic relief characters. We didn't need both Bernie and Josh. We could have just had Bernie. I didn't like Josh. He served no purpose, and his one-liners were annoying. And Gia was fantastic.
Oh yeah, Gia's like the heart of the movie with Kong. She's that's a really, again, a very different sort of character from what we've seen in these movies in the past, and even a new twist for the whole Kong story, because usually humans, and female humans in particular, want nothing to do with Kong.
Yeah.
And they wind up getting him killed. So yeah, another good twist on how you can bring Kong forward, and even how you can bring him forward and still keep him as a tragic figure. Because, sorry, Teen Kong, he lost, but that's fitting for him. Kong's the tragic figure. He's the lonely king of the mountain, and when you could say that he was always destined to fall. That's kind of what he does, but they managed to do that while still giving him that big heroic moment. And then it sort of becomes like an homage to Greek mythology in a way, because at the end, because of his heroism, even though he was defeated, he gets to go to paradise in the underworld.
Yeah, that's true. So I will say, even though Godzilla won the battle, Kong won the film. So everybody's happy.
But then look at us. We're talking about the monsters again when we were just talking about the human characters. That says something.
I'm glad that neither Godzilla or Kong died. Me too. I was a little concerned about that for a while, but it looked good. Let's see. Was so excited for GVK. Then the third Singular Point trailer came out. Now that's my obsession since the third Singular Point episode came out. Okay, I'll stop talking trash about GBK because I really loved it. Random question: have you been watching Singular Point?
I have not been watching it yet because I want to get the official translation, whether it's the dub or the subtitles. I just want to make sure that I'm actually experiencing what's meant to be experienced, because I come from the age where you watched fan subs and they would put their own little spin on it, and as a result you might not get the most accurate translation. So I'm a little hesitant to do that sort of thing. But I have been keeping up with certain developments, like Titanosaurus and Varan being just evolutions of Godzilla.
Yeah, that's a thing. Again, that's another stream for another day.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as Godzilla versus Kong and trying to keep it on the human characters, the biggest disappointment in a way was Ren Serizawa, because it felt like there was so much that was there, but it got cut out. Like, you got to leave some of the fat in the meat because that's where the flavor comes from, you know? Mm-hmm. And especially when it comes to him, I'm already seeing more of it in the novelization because I picked that up too. But, I mean, it feels like if you were going to have him be Dr. Serizawa's son, you really had to make him more of a focus. So... And I mean, it feels like he was supposed to have that more important role. He's the pilot of Mechagodzilla, for crying out loud. And there are so many shots throughout the movie that imply that there's much more going on with him. Hopefully there are plenty of deleted scenes we can sort through once the physical release comes out.
Yeah, I agree. Like at the beginning, it looked like they held on him for like a few seconds, and you thought like, "Ooh, this is an important character," and then it was like a kind of like a bait and switch kind of thing. And yeah, so that's another flaw with this film. But yeah,
like sometimes you can cut a couple of things, and you can look at it and think, "I wish it were in the movie," but I can see why they dropped it. Like in Kong Skull Island, you see the deleted scenes that are mostly of Packard showing a bit more concern for his fallen soldiers, and you think, well, if those had been included, it probably would have broken up the rhythm, but it would have been nice to include them just so he would be a little more sympathetic. But as it stands, the movie still works. Here, I mean, I actually do think the whole release the Wingard cut thing is kind of justified, because I feel like we're missing a lot.
Yeah, what's there, like 3 hours of like cut footage or something?
That's what they say.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, I mean, if the monsters were the main characters of King of the Monsters, they're definitely the main characters of this one. So the human characters are like the supporting cast. You don't necessarily complain too much that, say, the different Imperial officers in The Empire Strikes Back don't get as much attention as Darth Vader. So why would you say that you don't care the human characters on Team Kong get less development than Kong? Kong's the star, and so is Godzilla.
Yep. Alrighty. So that was all the Monsterverse films. We all love the Monsterverse films, except for I don't like the first one, but you know, I'm sorry about that. All right, so we know the Monsterverse is continuing in the form of a Skull Island anime, but
probably a prequel, since
probably a prequel. But should it continue in the form of movies? So I asked a Twitter question like over a month ago about the pros and cons of continuing the Monsterverse, and here are a few of the responses from Allosaurus. Pros: well, Monsterverse is great, new monsters, etc. Cons: if it continues, there will be a possibility that the new Toho film will not be made for a long time.
I mean,
yeah, isn't there like licensing issues or something?
Licensing issues and stuff like that didn't prevent Shin Godzilla or the Polygon trilogy from being made.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, literally, they looked at the contract and after 2014 came out and said, "Hey, nothing in here says we can't make our own movies." So So I still don't know where that came from.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, real quick, we got a question. What are your favorite new kaiju in the Monsterverse? My favorites are the Mutos, the Skullcrawlers, Behemoth, and the Warbats. I like the Skullcrawlers. They're cool.
Yeah, they're pretty neat.
Yeah, they have a cool name.
Nice. Also, they're also actually a nice upgrade of an older monster, because that whole two-legged thing that crawls out of the pit in the original King Kong. It's not exactly a skull crawler, but definitely inspired. For my own part, aesthetically, I like Behemoth, and I want to see more of him one day. I just like the whole mastodon look. That's something you don't necessarily see all that much in the genre. What? There's the Mastodon Zord in Power Rangers / Super Sentai, which looks like some sort of beetle in the 2017 remake. But anyway, but that's just in terms of design. In terms of full-blown execution, I don't know. I think I gotta give it to the Mutos, because they were like they were like the ones that had the more screen time by a little bit in Godzilla 2014, and they really left a good impression. They had an interesting look, they had clear motives, and overall I think they left a good impression. And it's a shame that there's not more stuff out there of them, if you will.
Yeah. David Brown asks, would you like to see the monsters from the comics Awakening, Kingdom, Kong, Godzilla Dominion in a future movie? Perhaps.
So like Shinamura, Kamazats, those guys? Well, anything can happen. The comics are on shaky ground when it comes to how official they are. So any that died in the comics, they could just as easily say, nope, doesn't count anymore. Kamazats might be interesting. Giant bat monster. I'd also like to see how his wings are supposed to work, because his wings look really weird in all the panels, covered in spikes, and they're torn and everything.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get to more questions in a moment, but let's get back to the pros and cons of continuing the Monsterverse. Space Tree Studio says, pros, more movies gives more underrepresented monsters a chance. New monsters to be created, more recognition for the genre. Cons, Twitter.
Well, Twitter's a con for practically everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Good Lord.
I especially like the idea of bringing in new monsters. It's part of why I like this genre so much, because unlike with, say, superhero comics, where you only ever see characters from the comics that show up, and like characters like Harley Quinn, who started somewhere else and then went to the comics, are so rare. With the kaiju genre, you can just make new monsters whenever you want. You have your classics, but you can make as many new ones as you want too.
That's true. I wouldn't mind seeing like an updated version of the Gargantuas. That would be cool.
I remember rumors a little while ago that Legendary had gotten the rights to those, but they were never confirmed, so I never reported on it.
That would be awesome. All right. More pros and cons. Pros, possibility of more monster action, new monsters, hopeful for better humans. Cons, the human characters continue to not be written great and plots get written off. Yep.
Well, that person would probably be very disappointed by an all-monster movie then.
Probably.
Well,
all right. Pros, more monster movies. Cons, more monster movies. That's a thinker.
I think I can understand that to a degree. Like, you don't want there to be so much that it loses its specialness.
Yeah.
I
was sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like I was saying at the beginning, I don't want it to like overstay its welcome, you know?
Yeah.
We're oversaturated with like superhero movies. So
with no end in sight. Even though arguably the MCU reached its end with the movie that had "end" in the title, but and you're not entirely sure how they're going to move forward. Like, but you're not sure how it's going to work, because I mean, there's controversy surrounding Brie Larson. They lost Chadwick Boseman, unfortunately. Who knows? But as far as the Monsterverse goes, I definitely like to have it go long enough, but not to a point where it overstays its welcome, like the Showa series did, where right when it was starting to get back on track, people lost interest and it just sort of petered out. You definitely have some sort of goal in mind. Like, just to take from what people have been saying, have a destroy all monsters for your finale.
Yeah, I would like that. All right. Pros: updated look for classic monsters and newly introduced ones as well. Better human storylines, special effects for everybody. Cons: you can't and will not please everyone. Get used to that. Not everyone can be invited to this party. Sorry, Gamera. Poor Gamera. He always gets left out.
I don't know. For a long time, people said there would never be a rematch between Godzilla and King Kong, and look at how that turned out.
Yep.
I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not saying it would definitely happen, but I don't think you can completely rule out Gamera. That being said, Gorgo and Ogre are technically in the public domain if you go with the Charlton Comics versions, so maybe they'll show up first.
Yeah, maybe. All right, last one here. It's more of a general comment from Steve Copian of Unseen Films. Having brought every monster in previously and killed many off, there really is nowhere to go. They may have run out the thread, because as much as I like the film GVK, has almost no narrative, so where do they go? Interesting point.
I don't necessarily know if there's nowhere to go. I mean, I can see how you can look at it and say it could end here, because it does kind of get to a point where Godzilla and Kong have both sort of completed their goals, if you will. Godzilla's complete ruler of the earth. Every Titan submitted to him. He's in charge. Anyone who steps over the line, he'll probably be able to take him down. Kong, I mean, after losing everything, he gets to stay in the Hollow Earth, where he can roam free and not have to worry about Godzilla coming for him anymore. So you can say that maybe there's not many other places to narratively go with them, but there are other narrative places you can go. Like, what if that Mothra egg rehatches? Mothra could easily carry her own movie, I think. I've actually occasionally brainstormed with some people the idea that you could do a Mothra Rodan team up, if you will. Like, have Mothra establish herself on Infant Island, because according to an Easter egg in KOTM, there is an Infant Island in this universe. And some sort of threat, maybe something familiar like Batra and something new, whatever it would be, is threatening that. And Mothra can't quite handle it on her own, but Godzilla's approaching to handle it. But if he shows up, Infant Island will be completely demolished just from the fight alone. So she goes to get help from Rodan. Maybe Rodan's not too keen on helping because she stabbed him through the throat.
Yeah.
So you got that tension there. It would be interesting to see that sort of, I don't want to say buddy cop movie play out with a monster, but maybe something like that. There are places you can go, I think.
Mm-hmm. Something like Hobbs and Shaw or Falcon and the Winter Soldier for Mothra and Rodan?
Possibly, yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get it.
There you go.
You got any thoughts on what could potentially carry it forward, or?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, I would like to see, like, as a finale of the Monsterverse, like you said, like a destroy all monsters type deal. I think that would be really cool. But, they have to bring in, like, new monsters and stuff. As far as the narrative goes, like, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Like, there are more narrative stories to tell, but we just gotta find out what those are. Yes. All right, so We got some time for some questions. We actually have a Twitter question from Gzilla100. If you were going to direct the final Godzilla movie, what would the plot be about? What monsters would you have, and how would you honor the big G? I pretty much just answered that one with destroy all monsters type thing. So what would you think?
It's difficult for me to answer how would I make a Godzilla movie when I've got a book that's basically my excuse of how to make a Godzilla movie without actually using Godzilla. I'm not stealing anything, Toho, I promise. But I guess if it were the finale for the Monsterverse, it'd have to be something truly epic. Maybe that would be something where you finally do commit to the idea that Ghidorah introduced aliens, bring in the aliens. Have sort of like what IDW did, where you have this grand invasion of space monsters. Another Ghidorah shows up, brings Hedorah, Gigan, a bunch of new creatures, maybe. Something like that, and have it just be sort of this all-out deal. Maybe not quite to the same level of Final Wars, and maybe not exactly the same as the original Destroy All Monsters, but definitely just bring the Monsterverse to that particular area, and then you can once again have that sort of Avengers Assemble moment where Godzilla maybe does that call and all the monsters come to his aid. That would be really cool.
That would be amazing. We need to get to work on that movie right now.
Oh, yeah.
You can write the script.
If anyone from Legendary is listening.
Yes, y'all listening? Legendary, hello? Someone share this with Legendary. Alrighty. Which Toho kaiju would you want to see in the Monsterverse? I want Anguirus, man. Gigan and Junior would be cool too. I agree.
I defer to my list.
Yeah. I like Biolante. Biolante needs more love. And of course, the spiky boy Anguirus, like you said, Mr. Blawbox. Let's see.
There was the Easter egg. He's at least on the table.
Yep.
Skeleton.
Who would win in a fight? Showa Godzilla or Showa Gyaos?
Probably Showa Godzilla.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, Gyaos was defeated partly by getting dizzy. So
yeah, and then Gamera freaking dragged him into a volcano. So that didn't end well for Gyaos. Yeah. Alrighty. From Gaposaurus, what would you think of a Netflix series or other series that delves deeper into Monarch and or Apex, more world building, mystery, and intrigue, but with less on-screen kaiju action, just spitballing?
So maybe kind of like the X-Files, but with more of a Titan focus as opposed to UFOs? Maybe.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
There's actually... There's actually this anime series recently, or maybe not too recently. What is it called? I think Altiori did a video on it recently that's basically kind of like that. A guy looking for cryptids, and they're like short horror story things. The first one has a lake monster in it. The title translates to something regarding a crocodile. I wish I could remember. If anyone remembers, put it in the comments now.
Yes. Gzilla100 asks, would you guys like to see a rematch with Destroyer?
Possibly.
If it works with the story, then yes.
Yeah. I think we can safely lay the whole Destroyer is going to be in GVK rumor to rest at this point.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. If they wanted to bring Destroyer back at some point, maybe as another long-term effect of the Oxygen Destroyer, or with a completely different origin, because there's nothing saying that has to be the origin.
That's true.
Who knows? Make it work, though.
Yeah, make it work. I really want to see Super Godzilla and Bagon.
Oh, yeah, from the games.
Ah, yeah.
Bagon, or Bagon, however you pronounce it. The most popular monster to never appear on screen.
Yeah. Godzilla versus Ultraman. Sure.
As long as Godzilla's not wearing a fancy collar, yeah, he stands a shot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, clearly.
Yep. All right. I think that's all the questions we have for today. Thank you again, Omni Viewer, for coming on to my channel. So before we leave tonight, why don't you go ahead and plug your stuff?
All right. Though I don't know if I'm allowed to plug things here. I thought you're not supposed to show killing. Anyway, little 1930s gangster talk for you. Matches the hat. Anyway, mentioned it at the beginning, but like I said, I've got 3 books out: Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City. All of them available on Amazon, and there's a 4th short story anthology hopefully coming soon. It's in the revision process. And of course, sequels all being worked on, I promise you. My channel has been kind of quiet for a little bit because of behind the scenes technical things, but I'm getting back on track. A new video will be out soon, I promise you. Just got a bit of a learning curve, but otherwise go check out all that stuff if you want. And that's the long and the short of it, I guess. So yeah, the big thing is, if you feel like checking out some of my books, they're on Amazon. If you feel like watching my channel, you know where to find me. And Snazzy couldn't make it to this show today, but he'll be there on my channel and maybe for another live stream. Who knows? And that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming on to my stream. It is an honor to have you here, my good sir. And to you watching at home, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to hang out with me and my lovely guest. Please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I stream every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and I upload a new video almost every Tuesday if I can. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
So long.